let's see what's on our minds.
Is there some like famous monologue from the Joker that you wanted to recite for this pod?
I don't think so. He just goes like to Bobby De Niro and just goes like, Bobby, we live in a society, and you'll get what you deserve for making me live in it. And then he just kicks out his gun and shoots him in Fortnite dances, I guess.
Yeah, that's a direct quote, right?
Yeah,
he just says we live in a society for 100 minutes and roll credits.
He literally does say like, what do you take when you put a mentally ill loner in a society? Like,
he does.
Treats him like dirt. You get what you fucking deserve. I think it's the only, because I did cheer when he said society. That's just a cheer moment.
Could you imagine if we watched this at the bachelor party instead of?
Oh my God.
I thought about it just to be economical because I knew we had to do this podcast. I was like, should I put this on the wheel? Is it the vibe of the bachelor party?
Wait, you guys had a wheel?
We watched one movie at the bachelor party, and we put Cat in the Hat on the wheel 4 out of 9 times. Really trying to get Cat in the Hat to be the pick.
Really cooking the books.
Yeah, it was not the pick.
We're probably going to do Cat in the Hat at some point in the pod.
I know we will.
It's a weird movie to look at in hindsight.
A lot of my friends want to be on that one. But
I want to be on that one.
I know.
We're going to have we're going to have like a roundtable discussion of the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat movie.
Get a lot of varying opinions about it. I'm in the underrated.
It's a good thing you guys
underrated.
It's a good thing you guys didn't watch the Joker at the bachelor party.
No,
yeah, that would have sucked. We watched Catch Me If You Can.
Dan would get really depressed, and then you would hear, "Oh no, they canceled the wedding. Now there's no more wedding."
I can't have another wedding.
I can't get
cancel on me this
married
year.
because we live in a society.
All right, I got the Joker's letterboxed up. Welcome, everyone, to the Over Under Movies podcast, the show where we take a prominent figure or franchise in the world of filmmaking and ask the simple question, is it overrated or is it underrated? I'm joined, as always, by my co-host. He is, this is a tough one.
Let's go.
It's a movie about a loner, so I'm not going to just be listing characters. He is just my friend. We're lucky to have friends in this life.
I don't get to be the girl that lives down the hall from you.
You'd be the Bobby De Niro to your Joker.
That's the other thing. I don't know all of the characters' names. I might know none of their names. That's how much research I did for this podcast.
Well, you could do like the little person who he specifically tells like, don't come to Gotham tomorrow.
Yeah.
You were nice to me. Like,
His name's Arthur. I do remember just that character's name. Okay. Yeah, he's the Arthur to the Joker. It's Mr. Dylan DeAngelis.
Well, no. Joaquin Phoenix's name is Arthur Fleck. That's his name.
yeah.
Oh, then what the hell's the little person's
We're just
name?
all the Joker. Was it three
I
Jokers on this fucking podcast?
Oh, that was a comic.
That is true. That is a comic. It was okay.
Yeah.
We also have a special guest on the pod.
Yeah, it's our boy Shane.
Hello, everybody.
You may remember him from the Street Fighter episode. Shane, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, kind of similar movies.
Yeah,
to
so
what we're doing
similar.
today.
I love the Street Fighter movie for all its campy glory, and we'll get into my feelings on the Joker, but a little less campy, and I think maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We flew Shane all the way across the country.
Just for this event.
Just to talk about the Joker.
Yeah, so thank you for being here.
Of course.
So, Joker, this came out in, I forget, 2019? This came out in 2019.
Pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic, directed by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix. This was a surprise smash hit. I think a lot of people expected it to do middling to mildly successful box office, but this made over $1 billion. It became the highest grossing R-rated film of all time.
Until Deadpool and Wolverine beat it this summer.
Yeah, but this has a much smaller budget than that movie. So there's some metrics that call this the most successful comic book movie of all time. Joker. 2019 Joker.
We've also had like a middle budget too, I think. Like,
It had a $55 million budget.
Yeah, so when you factor in like the budget, probably like maybe the most successful.
And we're talking about the movie today because the sequel, what's it called, Joker Folie à Deux or something like that?
Folie à Deux.
what is
Oh my God! You went to Paris, didn't you?
what is the translation?
Yeah, I don't mean to brag, but I actually studied abroad.
Oh, look at this guy. He's up on his Duolingo.
Yeah, what is the Duolingo translation for the Joker 2?
Well, I'll tell you this. Do means two.
Oh shit.
Foley, I don't know. Let's take some guesses. What do you think it means?
I just think it's like part 2, right?
I think it means like laughter, maybe.
Laughter 2?
That's my guess. Well, it's
It's a very funny movie, so
right. It's gonna be so funny. What's your guess, Dylan?
I'll say Phase 2. It's like the MCU.
Yeah, like phase 1 is when we introduce the Joker. Phase 2 is when we like introduce Travis Quinn from Taxi Driver.
Foley means madness, and folie à deux means madness for two.
And this
Because Harley Quinn is the
yes, okay, because we got to get into female rage.
Anyway, Joker 2 not reviewing super well right now, which is no surprise. The first one didn't review super well either. It's got like a 60 something on Rotten Tomatoes. But again, we say this like every other pod. Movies don't get sequels because they're good. Movies get sequels because they make money. And the first Joker movie made a shitload of money.
Made a lot of money. It also got, I would say this got critical acclaim. It got like 11 Oscar nominations, the most for any comic book movie.
Yep.
It has a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Nice.
Good. Which I think counts as certified fresh.
And it like won, I think 2 of them, right? Like it won Joaquin Phoenix and
Joaquin Phoenix won for Best Actor, and they also won for Best Score.
right. I was gonna say
The score was good. But yeah, this movie, the reason why we're so like, oh, Joker, we're so surprised it did this and this and this, is because it's a fairly divisive movie. It's one of those movies that some people say like, oh, this is like something for incels to rally around. It glorifies white males who turn to violence when they feel like losers.
Nihilism.
Yeah. And then other people say like, no, this is just a really beautiful movie. It speaks about mental illness.
It's just a guy trying to find his place in society.
Yeah. Okay.
he just wants to play CS:GO and they won't let him.
It seems like we're not really on the side of either of those things, really. But this was quite a divisive film at the time.
I may have called this movie an incel's wet dream when I first watched it.
I could believe it, and I think that there is credence to that. But I also don't think it like causes incels to like commit acts of violence, which some people in the media were worried about at the time.
Yeah, it's like I guess we'll get into our like more in depth of our feelings, but I did not really like the movie, but I do agree that like the moral outrage behind the movie was very like, I think, disingenuous and like kind of ridiculous. There was no way Joker was going to cause any like real world violence. And I do think a lot of the interviews that Todd Phillips had to give about like, do you think this is going to cause violence, and trying to, because he had to like answer for like the infamous Dark Knight shooting. Like,
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was reading that they didn't show the movie in Aurora, which
Yeah.
is where the Batman shooting took place.
That's so interesting.
And yeah, I don't think that's fair for like the movie to be held accountable for that, and for
Right.
Todd Phillips to be accountable in any way for that. But
Yeah.
again, I'm not a fan of this movie, so
Even the Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises, was that when the shooting happened?
yeah, it's certainly right.
Yeah, even the Dark Knight Rises shouldn't be accountable for a guy shooting a theater. But yeah, there was fears about that happening again, and they turned out to be unfounded.
I think that like led also to the movie being such a success because there was like this weird, like, we gotta go see it. It's gonna be so controversial. You know, like theaters are like saying like you can't dress up as the Joker, and like they're like banning any kind of like words. Like when me and my friend were like going to see it, he was like, okay, we can't mention gamer. Like don't say anything about that because we don't want to get
Don't
kicked
say
out.
gamer.
Yeah.
It was one of those movies where like the hype kind of overshadowed the movie itself, when the movie is basically just a character study.
Yeah, we're getting way ahead of ourselves talking about like the world impact of this film and how it did. Let's just talk about the movie. So Shane, can you give us a quick summary of like what this movie's about?
Yeah, so it's about a man named Arthur Fleck.
Fleck.
Yeah, so he is a full-time clown in New York City in the Gotham, Gotham City in the 70s, and which I remember I mentioned these yesterday, which was like how many people can make a living being a full-time clown in the 70s?
There are clown schools. That is a thing.
Yeah, and so he's like a clown, and but he's also like suffering from mental illness, and he wants to be he's like an aspiring comedian. comedian, but he's not very good at it. Hijinks ensue. He gets fired from his clowning, and because like one is that he gets some hoodlums steal a sign that he was using for like an out of business sale thing, and they steal it, and his boss is like, they took the sign, like you stole the sign, Arthur. And Arthur's like, some kid stole it, and he's like, I don't care, it's coming out of your paycheck, and if you mess up one more time, you're fired. And then, like, another one of his clown friends gives him a gun. He's like, Arthur, you got, stood up by those hoodlums. Have a gun. And then, like, 2 scenes later, he's doing a dance at a children's hospital. And then the gun comes out of his ankle. And then his boss rightfully is like, why did you have a gun? Like, at the kids' hospital. And Arthur's like, I don't know. It's just really hard out there right now. And he's like, you're fired. And then things keep going bad to worse for Arthur. He imagines his neighbor is his girlfriend. And then Robbie De Niro, who is like the Jimmy Fallon of the 70s Gotham, is like, take a look at this Joker. He can't tell jokes, real good. And then Arthur gets upset because that's like his hero. And then he finds out that his mom adopted him. And also she pretended to be like Thomas Wayne's love child, like mistress. And Thomas Wayne is running for mayor. And he's really bad at running for mayor because every time he's like giving an interview, he's just like, everyone in the city sucks. And only the rich people are good. And so things keep going bad for worse. Joker puts like a pillow under his mom's face, suffocates her. And then he's going to go on Bobby De Niro's show to kill himself. But then last minute, he's like, actually, I want to kill Bobby De Niro. And he does it. He goes, joke's on you. Boom. And then riots ensue. And then Batman becomes Batman because in the riots, Thomas Wayne and Martha get shot. And then it cuts to Joker in a hospital. And he tells his psychiatrist, yeah, you wouldn't get it. And then the movie ends. So, yeah, that's my recap.
Solid rundown. So, yeah, this is a movie just about a guy who's already struggling with mental health issues, developing more mental health issues, and then that, I guess, makes him violent. He murders 3 people in between getting the gun and getting on Robert De Niro's show, and then he kills Robert De Niro, and then that's the Joker, baby.
I guess the first question we should ask is, if this movie was not called The Joker, would it have made $1.1 billion at the box office?
So that's the thing that like I kind of struggle a little bit with this movie is that, so Todd Phillips has like gone on record talking about like he does not care about like comic books or Batman or like anything to do with the mythology. He has kind of said that like he wanted to make a movie that was like the movies that he grew up with in the 70s, like Taxi Driver, the
King of Comedy.
Yeah, King of Comedy, and not The Conversation. Well, The Conversation is probably one of them too. Oh, Network. Where like, because in the 70s is when like you start getting into like the new Hollywood, where things getting really gritty and like very politically driven dramas. And he was saying it's like, oh, you can't make movies like this nowadays, because everything is like a comic book now, it's all IP. But then he's like, oh, but like if I make a comic book movie, like based on one of these characters, then I can like sneak that through and like, I'll make a real movie, like a real movie, quote unquote. If I'm putting on my Batman fan brain, this movie's a very bad adaptation of the Joker and like the comics. But I'm also like, the movie itself, again, does not care. It's not a Joker movie. It's not a Batman movie. It's Todd Phillips' like take on a 1970s like crime drama.
Yeah, I mean it's a clever way to go about it. Where if you're like, hey, I want to do this like deep character study, like those De Niro movies in the 70s, but movies like that don't get financed today, I'll just turn it into a comic book movie. They'll pay for that.
It was clearly a smart move because not only did they pay for it, but they also, it was successful. People went out to see it. I had read that when they pitched this to DC said no a couple times because they weren't going to be able to sell any toys based on this movie. Right. And then when they finally said, okay, we'll do it, Todd Phillips said, okay, but like for real, you can't sell any toys based on this movie. So he like worked that into the contract that there would be no merchandise for this.
I mean, I want like a Robert De Niro talk show host action figure.
I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes more and more a thing now, especially with the frequency that we're seeing studios hone in on known IP for their products. Like the Penguin show that just came out, it feels very much just like The Sopranos, but it's instead of Tony Soprano, it's the Penguin. And so are people just going to start doing that where it's like, oh, I have this cool idea for a show or a movie, but they're not going to make it, so I'm going to like trick them basically and saying like, oh no, it's about this superhero guy or it's about this other IP.
Yeah, because like I know that like James Gunn has said that like they're going to introduce like a DC Black, which is just the like stuff that's outside the continuity, that's more like creator driven and darker, R-rated possibly. So like that's kind of where like the Joker and I guess Matt Reeves' Batman is going to exist. Because Matt Reeves' Batman is also like it's like a noir story, and like that takes also some liberties. So yeah, like I could definitely see it as like a possibility, and you know I would hope for that because I don't really like the homogenization that's happened with superhero movies, particularly with the MCU.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good like comic book runs that do that like character driven, character study take on superheroes, and you know not every comic book is just punching each other to save the world. So there's tons of stories out there to adapt.
I mean, you're the comic book guy between the two of us, Jason. But like, isn't the whole point of the Joker like that he doesn't have a known backstory?
So the most famous Joker backstory up until this movie was the Killing Joke. And at like the beginning of the Killing Joke, he's like, "This is my backstory, unless I'm making it up." And so like the whole thing is his origin, but like it also just might not be true. So yes, the Joker keeping his origin in the dark is like a tried and true tradition of any Joker.
Which is like, I think what's most appealing about the character is like what makes him scary, and you know, and the Killing Joke's point is that anybody could be the Joker. Like the whole point of that story is like it takes one bad day, you know, to go down this road. And so in the storyline, he tries to do that with Gordon, where he tries to have Gordon have a really bad day and have him go insane to kind of prove that. And to me, that's what makes the character so scary, is the fact that it's like we don't know anything about him, and it's the mystery. And as soon as you start giving an origin to that story, it's not as poignant or, you know, scary anymore. And it's also just not as interesting. Like, I just don't find anything in this movie that's as interesting as like what your imagination yourself comes up with.
It's also really weird to see a movie that is depicting the Joker without a Batman in it, because, you know, those characters they're kind of like peanut butter and jelly, you know, they go together perfectly.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is because there's like a lot of stories where like there's like this very famous episode of the Batman the animated series where Batman dies and the Joker becomes bored without Batman. You famously has like the line where it's like, without Batman, crime has no punchline, because he needs like someone like Batman who's so serious and like is fighting the good fight to make fun of. And when he doesn't have someone like Batman to challenge him, he's like, I don't know. Like, he has like this whole existential crisis. And again, that's kind of where like the Joker needs Batman.
Yeah, and that's why like when you take a movie like this, and this movie isn't super comic booky, I would say all the stuff with like Thomas Wayne feels very shoehorned in there.
Yeah.
Almost like it's like studio mandated or something like that, hey, we need like Batman stuff in here somewhere.
Yeah. Like the one scene that I just hated was after the riots start and like Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne, Bruce, like when they get out of the theater, and it has like, you know, the shot where it's like the Mask of Zorro, and then they go down the alley and it's like, you get it, it's Batman's origin. Because it's like, that really felt like the studio being like, if you don't show the Waynes getting shot, the fans are gonna be mad.
How long do you think is the YouTube supercut of every single time Batman's parents died?
It's like 10 minutes.
In any iteration, like cartoons, live action films.
That's pretty long then, yeah.
You know what?
Video games, like, you see them die. You're like, hey, new Batman?
We gotta see this.
We gotta go find an alleyway to shoot in.
Those pearls gotta hit the ground.
You know what's just fascinating to me is that, like, Marvel has only allowed Uncle Ben to get shot twice. When we were like, we got to reboot Spider-Man again, they made a point where it's like, we're not showing Uncle Ben get shot. But DC is like, shoot those rich assholes as many times as we can. Like, they've done it with every single Batman origin except the Robert Pattinson one.
Yeah.
Like,
And there's still a chance they'll flash back to it in the next movie.
Yeah, and whenever they bring in whoever James Gunn's Batman's going to be,
We're going to see it.
it's going to be in a flashback.
Did you
Get ready
see?
for it.
Did you see Teen Titans Go to the movies?
What?
The
No.
Teen Titans Go film, because they show Batman's origin in that, but they have the Teen Titans are like, I forget what the main thing is, but they're jealous of the main superheroes, so they go back in time and prevent every superhero's origin. So they go back in time and they save the Waynes, and that's preventing Bruce Wayne from becoming Batman. But then when they get back to the present, everything's sucks more, so they go back in time and redo every superhero's origin. You see Raven put the pearls around Martha and push the Waynes into the alley, and then you just hear a gunshot. It's the best joke in that movie.
Do we see the Waynes die in the Lego Batman movie?
I don't remember the Lego Batman movie.
no, I'm gonna say no. I don't think you see the Waynes.
Anybody in the comments, let us know.
Yeah, if you're a big Lego Batman
Do
fan.
we see the Waynes die in the Lego Batman movie?
Also say Zach Galifianakis' Joker in that movie. It's pretty good.
It was good. He did a good job.
I think a better Joker.
Yeah, it's surprising that his buddy Todd Phillips did not tap him for this role.
Yeah, man, what's up with that, Todd?
It is weird that I was looking at Todd Phillips' filmography today because I couldn't think of like other stuff he had done. I was like, oh, he's a comedy guy.
Right.
He did the Hangover films.
Didn't he say that he couldn't do comedy anymore because of woke?
So yeah, basically he was like, I'm making the Joker now because I can't do comedy anymore because like comedy can't get made because of woke, and which I feel like that's kind of my big problem. One of the big problems I have with the movie is that the movie is so serious, and I can't help but feeling when I watch this movie that because the Joker, like there's literally a scene where like he tells like a risque joke, and then like this older woman's like, no, you can't say those jokes, like, you know, and the movie just feels kind of angry, and I just feel like it's Todd Phillips being angry that you can't say paging Dr. F word anymore. Like, you know, like, and it's just like, dude, just calm down. It's like, it's not that serious.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's the thing where, he just went like on a whole thing about how like you can't tell jokes anymore, can't make comedy movies anymore, but.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds exactly like the attitude of like the person who made this film. But to give this movie some credit, I think there's some artistic merit. I think the sets look great. I think the design of Gotham feels different enough from the Nolan Batman films and the Reeves Batman. And yeah, it looks like it's straight out of like 70s New York. And I think they did a good job with that.
I mean, the movie is shot in New York, right?
Yeah,
Probably.
or I think it's like shot like Jersey City.
I know the Joker steps are a real place that
in Brooklyn, in New York somewhere.
Yeah, it's a real place that real, you know, weirdos go to. It's like a shrine for angsty teens.
And that's like one of the things that like I will, to the movie's credit, is that like despite my problem with the movie, it is a well-made movie. The cinematography is amazing, and like, you know, the score, as we were saying, is great. I think it deserved the Oscar, and the production design is also just incredible. Like Gotham looks really cool, like very gritty, and I think at the time was like the most unique looking Gotham City, even if it is just 70s New York. So like that's the thing that like I do feel conflicted about the movie, where I do think a lot of the elements of the movie are good and well made. I just think it is not saying anything profound. All of its observations about like society feel very like surface level.
Yeah.
And it just, again, I just don't think this movie's saying anything.
Yeah. They spend a lot of time being like, society is really bad. And then they're specifically like, crime is up. And so crime is bad, but then rich people are also bad. They don't really draw the line between wealth disparity causing the crime. Yeah. They kind of allude to it, but they...
See, well, that's the thing. It's like, because Todd Phillips, like when and again, I agree that like a lot of the media like apologizing, he kind of, well, not apologizing, but like scrutiny that he went through while promoting the movie was like, ridiculous. And he shouldn't have had to justify the movie's existence. But also, every time it was brought up, he kept being like, oh, this movie's not political. And, I'm not like taking a political stance. And to me, that was like kind of the most telling part about it, is that like he wants to bring up these issues, but it's very clear that the movie doesn't have anything to say. It itself doesn't want to engage in any kind of dialogue meaningfully with, these issues of wealth disparity, mental health. And like, I remember just saying, like, I don't know what the movie is saying or what side it's on. Like, when the Joker talks to Thomas Wayne, I was like, I don't know if like it's pro Thomas Wayne, anti Joker, or anti Thomas Wayne. It's so confusing. Like, if I had to say what the message of the movie is that like society is a pressure cooker and there's people at the bottom of it. And if we don't do something about the people at the bottom of it, then things will boil over.
Right. And that's such a vague thesis for a movie to have.
If we don't shoot Jimmy Fallon in the face, society's going to go downhill.
Right. And that's the thing where it's like the movie, it's like great observation, Todd.
Cool story, bro.
No, and like, it's the thing, like, it's the thing where it's like a high schooler's understanding of problems. It's like, why can't we just fix them? Like,
right. Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's why a lot of the, the weird manosphere people like latched onto this film so much, is because the guys that are deep in like the red pill or like the black pill mindsets, specifically the black pillars, which are the guys that they believe that some men are born with like a biological predisposition not to like reproduce, basically.
Yeah, the Joker in that mindset in this movie is like a beta, I guess, or like I don't know the levels of man, thing.
Yeah. The beta is the one that gets cucked.
Yeah,
that is the lower rung. The alpha is the guy that hooks up with all the women.
Right, and then Sigma is Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, well, the Sigma is like a level above the alpha. The Sigma is like the stoicism.
Right.
That's the guy that acts like he doesn't give a fuck, and like that's what makes him attractive, is that he's super stoic.
But like, so I think that like the Joker is supposed to be like the lowest member of the male tier because like he's a loser, and I think that a lot of those guys see themselves in the Joker because they're like, oh my god, like he's just like me, he's like, society hates him and he's not an alpha. But that's the thing where it's
but him putting on the clown makeup and dancing down the flight of stairs, that makes him the alpha.
Into a Sigma.
That's his transformation sequence.
Right.
And even like when he's promoting like Todd Phillips is promoting Joker 2 now, and like he said recently where they were like, oh, like what would Arthur think about like Batman? And he's like, yeah, I think he would think he's so cool because he's like an alpha.
Oh, he did say that. He called Batman an alpha male.
Batman's a Sigma. Like, right. He's Ryan Gosling coded,
Yeah.
And, Batman's on the grind set. Like, but again, it's like, I just don't think Todd Phillips is a smart guy. I don't think this movie is very smart. I think Todd Phillips got a really good cinematographer, a really good production designer, costume designer, and a really good composer. And Joaquin Phoenix is a really good actor. Like, he had a lot of really talented people around him, and they were saying lines from a very bad script.
Yeah.
I mean, to give Todd Phillips some credit, I mean, that is part of the director's job, is to get the right people in the right jobs and to get the performances, and you want the end result to look like what you want it to look like.
Yeah. I don't want to say that like he's a bad director, because like to your point, it's like he surrounded himself with talent, and like there is a vision to the movie. I don't think it's a smart vision.
Yeah, it just thematically is fairly empty, even though it says the words like mental illness and it says society. It has nothing to say about those things. And it's like when they bring those topics up, they like really just hammer it in over and over. It's like society, bad.
That's what they should have called Joker 2.
Joker
2. Society.
I feel like the thing that like gets me about the movie is also the fact that, again, like Todd Phillips was like in the first run of like, these marketing for Joker 1 was just again like, this isn't a comic, like this isn't your grandma's comic book, and you know, this is like a 70s dark thriller move, like, you know, drama. And to me, like you're making a point where it's like, this is like the elevated, like big boy smart comic book movie. I'm not like the other girls,
Right.
but I just don't think it's doing anything particularly smarter than like the Marvel movies do. Like for example, like Winter Soldier is a movie that like a lot of people like to say is like, oh, it's like a 1970s thriller. It's not.
Right.
Like, I like Winter Soldier, but like it is a comic book movie. And I think a lot of the elements of like, it does take elements of those Cold War thrillers and puts it in Winter Soldier, but usually those elements are very surface level, I feel like. In the same way that like the Joker is a comic movie that's taking a lot from those Scorsese movies from the 70s, and it's taking so much from it, but like it's all surface level. Like, and that to me is like the issue, where it's like, just because like you're taking so much from Taxi Driver doesn't make you Taxi Driver. I still feel like this is just a shallow comic book movie, just like all the other ones.
Yeah, and funny enough, I actually think the Matt Reeves Batman film does a much better job at highlighting like societal like inequality.
Yeah.
And, you know, political corruption, and making those, you know, like the forefront of the mystery of that film.
I agree. I mean, that movie, yeah, they specifically call it out. They're like, mobsters turn on each other. So many politicians, law enforcement, lawyers, they're all in the pockets of the mob. Like the reform movement, like a political movement in that film, they reveal is a front for like laundering money for the mob and political corruption. So they call it out very specifically, whereas this movie does not do anything like that. All they say is that crime is bad and rich people also kind of bad.
That's crazy.
But it's like
Bars.
right, but it's saying rich people are bad, but like I don't think it's like saying what to do or anything about it. It's just that like there's wealth inequality.
Yep.
Like and again, it's like this came out the same year as Parasite, which I feel like its theme, like that movie's themes and messages are very clear and very smart and poignant. And maybe like that's not fair, because I think that movie is like a masterpiece.
Right.
To me, that's just like an example of like, you can have all these themes, but like you have to say something. Like,
and this movie just kind of doesn't. But that's our general thoughts on it. How well was this received? We kind of touched on this already. 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, 11 or so Oscar noms with 2 wins. And then on Letterboxd,
I'll also add that I do think Joaquin Phoenix is a good actor. Adam Driver should have won that year for Marriage Story.
Oh, I didn't see Marriage Story. Did you see Marriage Story?
No.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising that Joaquin won for Joker.
For the Joker baby.
This is the first time that a fictional character has had 2 actors win Oscars.
This has happened twice, actually.
Yeah.
Well, 2 times for the Joker. So the
Guess
first.
what the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Batman has never
It
been
is a
nominated.
fictional character, and I believe we've talked about this fictional character on this podcast. If I'm remembering
it's
it right.
not Cat in the Hat.
You know who's they're releasing a new animated Cat in the Hat. You know who's voicing him in the new one?
Is it Bill Hader?
Yeah, it's Bill Hader.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
kind of excited for that. Anyway, go ahead and guess. I think this fact is true. I could have mixed it up.
Well, so there's actually, this happened 3 times. One is the Joker, and then one's the character you're thinking of.
Okay.
But there's another one.
Is it like one of the Godfather characters? Does that count as a fictional character?
It's
it does.
Brando, and then it's De Niro, right? That plays young.
Yeah.
Yeah, De Niro, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, De Niro plays young Vito Corleone.
So the other one.
So I believe they both got Oscars for that role.
The other one was Anita from West Side Story in 2021. So the actors won for that. And then the 1960s West Side Story, the same character, an actress played that one also.
Right.
Won. So it's happened 3 times where an actor.
So West Side Story, The Godfather, and Joker.
baby.
Yeah. But yeah, Batman, no actor has been nominated for playing Batman.
Well,
What
that's
does
the
that say
crazy
about
thing
society?
is that, yeah, like the MCU has had a handful of movies that I would say are like Oscar worthy, or at least like Oscar nomination worthy, and like they never get any love.
Yeah, no. The Academy, I think the reason why Joaquin won for this It was so that the Academy could like appease people who always complain that these superhero movies never get any attention from them. So the Academy was like, oh, we finally have like an Oscar bait superhero movie that we can give an Oscar to. Let's just throw them a bone.
And then COVID happened like right afterwards as punishment.
Yeah.
God's wrath. Gamers thinking never win.
This movie has a 3.9 on Letterboxd, which is very high.
Sheesh.
It sounds like we're all a little bit cold on this movie. I do want to say that like lots of people that I love and trust, and I was surprised by this, do really like this movie. I just want to go through people we've had as guests on this podcast and their ratings. Billy, who you can check out on our Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode, gave this movie 4.5 stars.
Oh, Billy.
Let's read their review. Yes, I've seen The King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. Yes, I know that incels love this movie. Yes, I think it's cringy. No, I don't care. I still think it's great. So shout outs to Billy. I think that's fair.
You're never coming back on this podcast.
Melissa, who you can check out on our Beetlejuice podcast, she did not leave a review, but she gave this movie 1 star. Shane gave this 2.5 stars. Dan, who you can check out on our Furiosa podcast, gave this 2 stars. And then Ryan, who you can check out on our Nolan podcast, he gave this 4 stars. So he never gives 4 stars to anything. So he really likes this movie. So I was a little surprised at the range just from like my friends, people who have sat here with us talking about movies. So it really is divisive. I thought my bubble all had the same opinions. And with the 3 people we have in this room.
I'm surprised Letterboxd people like this movie.
I know, because Twitter people don't like this movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe we should have had somebody who, because I am curious what the argument is for it being good. Like,
me too.
Because again, like I know there's people like, I don't think it's fair to say that like everyone who likes this movie is like an incel. Like,
I'm willing to say that.
Yeah, like, no, just like throwing them.
Listen, if you like a movie, you should be able to explain why you like the movie.
No, that's the thing is that like I haven't heard personally, I've not heard a good argument as to why it's good. Like, personally, me, myself, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. And again, I'm not saying that everyone who likes and enjoys this movie is an incel. I'm sure that people have... They do see something in the movie and see something very valid and artistic. And maybe I'm not seeing it. So, I don't know. I'm willing to admit that.
Okay, well, another person who gave this... Someone who I follow who gave it 5 stars is... 3. That's one of your friends out in LA, right? She said, enjoy it because one day you'll have to work for a living. No, Mom, I won't have to because I'm going to be a filmmaker. I don't really know what that means, but that's a 5-star review, and that's the justification.
Listen, who among us doesn't strive to one day make it big so they can go on a talk show and shoot the host directly in the fucking face with a gun?
I mean, that part was cool. To this movie, all right, underrated. This movie gets memed a lot, and the parts that get turned into memes, I think, are like really memorable in a cinematic way. So yeah, him shooting Bobby De Niro, it's like, whoa, it's everyone knows it's coming, but it's still like it happens so suddenly.
I would say it kind of
cool.
It's a little surprising the first time you see it.
Yeah. So in some ways, it comes out of nowhere. It's like so stark. I'll give credit to the movie. It's not a hyper violent film for being like incel school shooter rallying film. It's not really that. There's a few shootings in it, but the violence is kind of reserved so that each moment has more of an impact. Mm-hmm. So I think they did a good job with that. The parts where Bobby De Niro's like, oh, you're laughing, blah, 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 blah happened, and you're laughing.
I do quote that a lot. It's like the Eagles are 2-3, and you're laughing. Like, yes, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. Like,
yeah, so all of those things, the parts that people really remember from this, we remember because, like, it is well done, and it was meant to kind of permeate society's consciousness, and it was successful in that. So this movie took big swings to try and be like the next Taxi Driver or whatever, or even like the next Fight Club. And in some levels, it was successful. So props to them for that. I don't really have anything else for underrated. I don't really like this movie that much.
Yeah, the argument for overrated is that just it's a movie that got critical success that I think is just wholly unjustified. Like you said, I think this is like a makeup from the Academy specifically for years of shunning superhero movies. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix won for Best Actor. The other nominees for that were Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver in Marriage Story, and Jonathan Pryce in The Two Popes. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix shouldn't have won for Best Actor that year. He just shouldn't have.
To be fair, I don't know if I saw any of those other movies.
I thought DiCaprio was really good.
DiCaprio was good. Again, I think Adam Driver should have won for Marriage Story.
Marriage Story is literally like I'm going to win an acting Oscar movie.
Yeah.
With him and Scarlett Johansson.
And if we want to talk about memes, we're still doing the punch the wall, you know.
Oh, yeah, punch the wall. And that one is even more of a success as a meme, I would say, because it came from a movie that no one really saw.
It was a Netflix movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I saw it, but I'm the Noah Baumbach fan here. Like,
I don't think I've ever seen a Noah Baumbach film.
you see Madagascar 3?
No.
Oh, well, you wrote that.
Is that the one where they go to the circus
That's
and
where they go to
the
the
zebra
circus,
wears
and
the afro?
Yeah, and he wrote it to basically pay for his divorce that would then inspire Marriage Story.
That's so funny.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not that funny.
Yeah, divorce isn't funny.
Yeah, divorce isn't funny, guys.
It's kind of funny.
Don't get divorced. It's expensive. Though if both of you are movie directors, you'll make some really good movies out of it.
Yeah, listen, Lost in Translation, Her, Marriage Story, all also starring, Scarlett Johansson. Like,
She's causing these divorces,
yeah,
bro.
oh my goodness. Scarlett, what are you doing?
Ghost in the Shell.
Who was Noah Baumbach's wife before Greta Gerwig?
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Oh, wow. And he cheated on her, right?
Allegedly, but mostly yes.
Yeah.
with
Greta
one Greta
Gerwig
Gerwig.
was-
No, we'll edit that out.
Yeah.
He said yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. See, this stuff's more interesting to talk about than the Joker movie.
I just feel like I don't really have much to say.
And here's the thing: nobody's gonna go see the sequel.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking at the AMC times for this weekend. Like, it's
that's
gonna
shocking. Yeah.
there's like a ton of showtimes for this movie, and it's not getting good reviews. And even like people on Twitter that are like, "Hey, I kind of like the first one. I have no interest in the second one."
No, it's crazy because again, this movie made like $1 billion, and like the sequel just like I know people who are going to see it, but I don't think anyone's like excited about it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I know that when they first announced it and kind of started giving hints about what it was about, and they announced that it's a musical, 2 starring Lady Gaga, it got so many people back in. Like,
I was one of them.
me too.
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds awesome. Melissa, who gave it 1 star, was like, I might go see the Joker too because
Like,
I
now
like
they're
Lady
going
Gaga.
at the theater kids.
Yeah, but here's
pulling
the
us
thing.
back in.
Within the last month, Todd Phillips is like, oh yeah, it's not really a comic book movie. Also, not really a musical. Like,
He said like the thing where it was like, I don't think it's a musical. It's just that when like, the characters can't have their emotions say the thing, so they have to sing the thing. And I'm like, that's a musical. Like, you just described a
so
musical.
dumb. But he's trying to like distance the movie from that genre for whatever reason, even though it's like the one thing that got people back interested again.
Right.
Todd Phillips is like the kid in school that used the wrong equation but got the right answer.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's like the thing where it's like either he's just because he seems like a very masculine guy, he doesn't want to associate with musicals, or either like but infamously now Hollywood is like pushing away from musicals. Like they don't show any singing in the Wicked trailer,
Right.
which I think is crazy. Like, are you trying to shadow sneak like the most famous and profitable musical,
Right.
like into theaters, like being like I hope, like, like is someone gonna go into Wicked being like, this is a musical? Ah, shucks! Like, I want my money back. Like,
Yeah. Todd Phillips, speaking of him and musicals, it was interesting that one of the dude bro finance bros on the train that the Joker shot just bullies the Joker by singing a Sondheim song called Send in the Clowns.
which is like that's like a deep cut Sondheim reference, and he like knows like every word, like
He's hitting the notes right. Why would a bully of a man bully someone by singing at them, by doing musical theater at them? If you don't exist in the universe of West Side Story, you should not be doing that.
No, it's a very strange choice, and I was just like, again, this is like a deep cut Sondheim reference. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
the Joker should have been like, man, you a theater kid? That's pretty cringe, bro. Like,
He would have won, yeah.
he would, like,
He wouldn't have had to shoot him.
Finance bro's like, you don't know me. Like,
Man, Joker definitely overrated,
Yeah, I like
especially off that letterbox.
That's crazy.
It's crazy high.
3.9 is like, yeah, like Mega Obelisk isn't even 3.9. Like,
we usually end this podcast with like, yeah, so like overrated, underrated, you know, go check it out. I don't think
Check it out, see for yourself.
Yeah, I don't think you need to check it out. Do you think anyone's missing anything if they skip the Joker for the rest of their life?
That's the thing. Is I don't really think there's anything in here to like even discuss. And like, cause like my actually like one friend, cause the park kept coming, I was like, I didn't see Joker. Should I see the other one? I was like, have you seen Taxi Driver?
Yes,
Like,
that's the answer. Is go watch
Right.
Taxi Driver instead.
And I feel like that's the thing, is like, go watch Taxi Driver, go watch King of Comedy, go watch like The Conversation, go watch The Network, go watch these better movies. Like, this is just kind of just cosplay of those movies, and they're much better. And like, one thing I was also forgot to say about this was that, like, I think what makes those movies special, especially like Taxi Driver, is when Todd Phillips goes like, oh, you can't make like, you know, these movies nowadays, you know, because of woke or because of IP. They are still making these movies. They're just not like the $50 million, $100 million budgets. Taxi Driver was made for like I want to say like under $1 million. And that's what made the movie kind of gritty. But what made that movie special was because of that low budget.
Yeah, you're telling a grounded street level story of a person. You're telling a character narrative.
Well, sorry, I think what I was going to say was honest. Because it is like low budget, and it is because like it is just Scorsese, De Niro, and that crew like just trying to tell the story. And like there was like an honesty to that. As soon as like you're doing it for $50 million, you know, for one of the biggest studios, you know, in the United States, it's like, I think you lose something there.
Yeah, you're kind of missing the point a little bit.
Right. And to me, it's like there are movies that are really like boundary pushing. They're still being made in like the low and even like mid-tier budget movies. It's just that like Todd Phillips also wants to work with studios. And like, to me, that's kind of the thing where, again, a lot of these movies that were made back then were made, you know, for these budgets, for smaller budgets. And yeah, they could be bold, and they could be, and again, they really had something to say. Whereas like, I just think Todd Phillips just wanted to like, I don't know, make a very self-serious movie about something and like society, and just didn't really have anything to say. So that's my final thoughts.
I mean, I think that's fair, and I think we all kind of feel the same way about the Joker. You guys gonna see Joker 2?
No, I mean, there's like some other movies that I've been meaning to see in theaters that this will be a good weekend for me to catch up on some stuff.
Yeah, so you'll skip Joker 2 and see something else?
Yeah, I want to see that robot movie. I heard that's
Wild Robot.
That's getting good reviews.
Yeah.
Or what's it called? The Substance?
Substance.
Oh,
getting
Substance
great
is really
reviews.
good.
I really want to see The Substance.
Yeah, I saw it last week. Really good. I think a movie that has a lot to say about society. like is really smart. Like, so go check.
Yeah.
Also really
check
funny.
out The Substance. Everyone check out The Substance.
Yeah. Bring the kids.
Cool. Then that's going to be it for this episode of the Over Under Movies podcast. Thank you for watching or listening. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your pods. You can donate to our Patreon so that we can continue to do this show, continue to fly in fun guests like Shane. Join our Discord. I know that there's people I met in Texas who were like, I'm going to listen to your show and join your Discord. You should do that. It was fun talking about Death Note the musical with you. So yeah, do all of that. We would love to hear from you and continue doing this. It's a lot of fun. Sorry that we did Joker this week. I think we're all feeling a little bad for that.
It's October, though. We're doing like a lot of horror movies this month, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, that is going to be fun. I got to hit up some people. But
Society is very scary. Like,
thank you again for listening. We'll see you at the movies. Bye.